Hi darlings, thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. And today I have a wrap-up video for you, doing a little bit of Bible study with me here in my verse map journal from James Method. You guys, I love this journal, and I am now an affiliate with James Method. So I'll have my affiliate link for this below. I know in my previous videos, I used to tell you I'm not an affiliate, so I don't have a link. I just have a regular link, but now I am. So I'm going to link that below in case you are interested in this. I have been doing all of my creative retreat kit wrap-ups in here, and you guys have enjoyed them. So I wanted to share the one for such a time, which is the July devotional. Now I have all of the things, all of the items I have left from the kit. I also have a couple of the digitals as well that I'm going to be using to put together this wrap-up page. I have my study Bible because I was doing some digging into the background and history of the book of Esther. I pulled out two different inks that I think I'm going to use, the Waterfall Blue and the Peachy Keen. These are both Creative Retreat inks. Again, I'll link everything below. Let's get started. Let's dig in. Okay, darlings, so the first thing I'm going to start off with is doing some stamp surgery. I'm going to grab this Such a Time stamp, and these words are kind of layered on top of each other. And so what I'm going to do is I go ahead and take my Tim Holtz scissors. These are super sharp and they work great. This does not hurt your stamp, and I'm going to separate the Such and a Time. That way I can stamp this side by side. So this is something that you can do. Stamp surgery does not hurt your stamps again. And as something I do to kind of make the stamps work for me. So I add that to the top where the banner is there. And then I'm going to grab some of the other elements from the stamp set. And I'm going to be using the color Waterfall and Peachy Keen, as I said. And I'm just adding some of that color, spreading that around on the page, and just creating a little bit of some decor. I'll list the Creative Retreat color inks that I used in this video below. And then after I go ahead and use those, I'm going to grab the washi that came with the kit. I love the color orange, as you guys know, so this was a fun one to work with. I first thought about using it along the edge, but then I thought it'd be fun to use it to kind of break up some of the sections within the journal. And so I'm going to be using some over here in the portion where it says view of man and /self, some in the portion of translation, and then another in that box for reflection and application. You'll also see me pull a little bit more of that out later on, just to create, again, more just to break up some of the sections. So now I'm using the circles that come with the cardstock stickers. You guys have seen me use this before. I'm going to be using those to fill in several of the circles around the main circle. And then I'll use this little box that I'm going to use for some word fetty later on, adding some wonky hearts around, spreading some of that color. And now I'm going to dig into the main verse. The main verse that I am looking at is in Esther chapter 4, verse 14, and the ESV translation, it reads, "For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this." This is Mordecai speaking to Esther, and he's encouraging her towards her purpose. And one of the reflections I had on this is it's so important to surround yourself with godly people that also want to serve the Lord, that also are submissive to the Lord's voice, because they are going to push you towards your purpose. And so I write a little bit of that in the reflection section later on. But here what I'm doing is I continue the verse that I wrote out in the big main circle, and then I finish that off with this Such a Time circle. And now I'm adding the word fetty from the Faith-Filled Digitals that says as this. So that kind of finishes off that verse for me, and that's going to cover two of those circles. I'm backing up the word fetty bit here just to add a little bit more pink so it doesn't blend into the Such as Time so much. And then I'll also add a wonky heart from the glossy stickers here. Okay, so after doing that, I have several florals that I want to use, but I'm going to add that a little bit more later. Now I'm going to use the tile alphas to put Esther and also the verse on the bottom. So say read Esther 4:14. And after I'm done with that, I will move on to the following section. Later on, under this section of translations, I will add in the New Living Translation of the verse of 14 of Esther 4. But now I'm going to dig in a little bit into the context. So I did some deep digging using my Fire Bible and the book introductions into the book of Esther. The book of Esther has an unknown author, but it's believed to think that it is a Jew that lived during this time that got firsthand account from Mordecai of everything that happened during this time. The book covers the years 483 and 480 to 473 before Christ, and it falls between the chapters 6 and 7 of Ezra. This is the same timing of Nehemiah as well. After the Babylonian defeat. This is during the Persian rule, and of course, Queen Esther becomes the queen of Persia. So now we look into the why of the book of Esther. This book shows God's protection of the Jews, but it also provides a historical background of the Jewish feast of Purim. Let me explain that. So after God uses Esther to deliver the Jews from annihilation, and because of her courage, they are saved, they now have this feast that they celebrate yearly, which is the Feast of Purim. Esther is one of two books that was named after a woman. Of course, the other one is the book of Ruth. And it also describes the reason behind that Jewish festival. And although it doesn't mention the name of God, it gives the best evidence of God's care and provision for his people. And I love this from the Fire Bible because what it says is that there is not a more powerful picture in all of the Bible of God's hand in preserving the Jewish people from demonic hatred of their enemies. In other words, that the book of Esther displays a powerful picture of God's hand preserving the Jewish people from hate and from their own enemies. And all of this is done because Esther had courage to listen to the voice of God. So over on the right-hand side here on screen, you're seeing me put together in that little box. I put God's provision. Under view of God, I talk about how God uses an orphan Jew who her name is Hadassah in Hebrew for his purposes, and he rescues the Jews. I also put in the view of man and self is that when we say yes to God and to his purposes in our lives, he can use us for great things, just like he did with Esther. And in that empty space between the circles and the right-hand page, I write a little bit about the book of Esther, all of those details that I shared with you. And so I'm just filling up the space of this journal with all of that background information, all of the notes that I'm just gathering from my study. And like I've shared before, you can use the space and the boxes in this journal to fit your needs. But I love looking into context and historical background because it really allows us to see and to understand the reasoning behind the books and also the time period. In the reflection and application section, I put that Esther understood her assignment and she sought God before acting. As we see in the book of Esther in chapter 4, she tells them that she tells Mordecai to tell the Jews to go into fasting and prayer. And her maidens also go into fasting and prayer because they are seeking the Lord before she goes to the king. In Esther chapter 4, verses 16, it reads, "Then I will go to the king, and though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." She was willing to put her life on the line for her people and for God's purpose in her life to be fulfilled. I love that and I put as a cross-reference Job 13:15, because here Job says, "Though he slay me, I will hope in him, and yet I will argue my ways to his face." I love the cross references that the Fire Bible gave me here because we can see Job and Esther in their situation talking about reaching out and risking it all so they can speak. In my prayer, I did just some personal reflection saying, Lord, allow me to embrace my purpose and be courageous like Esther, who put her life on the line for your glory. This is not about me and my will, but your will and the purposes being fulfilled in my life and on the lives of your people. Amen. Over on the left-hand side, I filled in those last circles with cross references as well. Proverbs 16:33, where it shows that the Lord has the final decision. Ephesians 2:10, where it tells us that we are created in Christ for good works. And also John 12:20-28, where we find that even Jesus worked for God's glory. That is it, darlings. That is the end. I just have one more section to fill out here. I'm going to go ahead and write this over here in the NLT, the New Living Translation, the NLT translation. This one over here, and I'm going to jot it down here so I don't forget, is in the ESV translation. So here I'll jot it down in the NLT translation. Those are my two favorite translations for now. I use ESV for deep study, and then NLT I use more for excuse me, for family work sorry, I use more for like family worship and for explaining and for getting a language that's a little bit more easier to dissect. So that is the end of this. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'm going to leave my affiliate link for the James Method Verse Map Journal and also a link to this beautiful kit. It is stunning, and I have enjoyed it so much here in the month of July. So thank you so much for joining me each and every video, darlings. God bless. Bye.